Don't get too comfortable. Chase Beckett opened his eyes as his brother-in-law, Jace McQuaid, slid into the empty train seat across from him. After 10 days of tracking down supplies for the clinic across 3 cities, he was exhausted and wanted to sleep. "Trust me, I'm not comfortable," Chase said. "Just dreaming about my queen-sized bed. And my wife." The thought made him smile, but just momentarily. "I understand." Jace glanced toward the door at the end of the train car that was half filled with passengers. "But actually, I was implying that we might be looking at a bit of trouble." "Great." He pressed his hands against his thighs and frowned. 2 years after the realm had taken down the grid across the country, there were still organized bands of outlaws emerging from the shadows like cockroaches. And now that the trains were moving again, they'd found a brand new target. "I ran into an old army buddy of mine who just happens to be the conductor," Jay said, lowering his voice. "There have been rumors of an attack on this route." Chase glanced out the window of the train, momentarily shifting his focus to the rugged West Texas landscape. While this wasn't a pleasure trip, he'd lived through enough excitement over the past 2 years to last a lifetime. He'd hoped to get home without running into any kind of conflict. Some had called the attacks on the country by the realm a second civil war, and he agreed. What he'd seen firsthand had turned into the largest and most destructive conflict on U.S. soil since that era. But just because the good guys had won, and the power was finally coming back on, didn't mean that the chaos that had erupted across the country had vanished. No, that was going to take time. Chase rubbed the back of his neck. "It feels like we've just moved from fighting one war to have stepped into another." "Agreed." Over the past few weeks, reports had confirmed that there had been hundreds of arrests of all levels inside the realm, rendering the group powerless. But while law enforcement continued breaking down the corrupt system, along with their communication networks, there were those who were still trying to take advantage of the situation. "What about our supplies and medicine?" Chase asked, turning back to his brother-in-law. "Nate assures me that they're locked up, and there's an armed guard." Jace paused. "But security is spread thin, and he could use the help of any law enforcement on board." "So you volunteered our services?" Jace grinned. "I know you're tired. I'm fine, though the last 10 days have been a bit..." Chase searched for the right word. "Brutal?" Chase let out a low laugh. "Glad I'm not the only one who feels that way."